Don't let hesitation, frustration, or procrastination destroy your personal brand. I want to give you 5 things that you can do instead. If you don't know who I am, my name is Gulfraz. I'm on a mission to serve, inspire, and unbind you so that you can become magnetic and you can serve others while you're being true to yourself. Now, in working with people to build their personal brands, and initially when I'm reviewing their content, when I'm checking out their socials, I've seen and I actually still see a huge disconnect between them and their intended audience, only because the content is coming from this place of inauthenticity. Now, here's the thing, it's easy for anyone to be magnetic and charismatic. It's not a magic skill or a magic power. And also to help you avoid this disconnect and to help you stop wasting your time or wasting your energy on this road to building a personal brand, I want to just plant 5 seeds in your mind that will grow into big trees, hopefully over time. I want to give you some practical steps so that instead of coming across as inauthentic or forced or looking like an imposter or a guru, because let's face it, we can smell that sort of stuff a mile away. When we're watching some content, we can tell when somebody's being ingenuine, if that's a word. You can start to actually understand how you can be effortlessly magnetic as well with these little 5 things I want to share with you today. I want to give you a disclaimer. I'm not about tips, tricks, and all these new hacks, that change every week. These are long-term, evergreen things that you need to bear in mind. They're never going to change across time. They're always going to remain the same. And I'm actually going through this strategy myself, and I'm learning these things myself as well. Now, I don't make that many videos. This is one of my earliest videos, so I'm not going to be as polished or as smooth as I'd like to be. But we're on this journey together, so you can join me on this journey, and let's be real and let's be authentic together while we're building our personal brands. Right, okay, so the first seed that I want to plant in your mind is just looking at this graph over here in the back. Now, this part over here, the first part of the magnetic growth system, there's actually a lot more that goes into this. These are just high-level things. One of the things I focus on is looking inside. So before I actually dive into practical steps that you can take on this point, I just want to start by explaining why building a strong personal foundation or an inner foundation matters in the first place when you're building a personal brand. And that adds to the magnetism and charisma that you want. Now, for one, I struggled a lot with understanding these sorts of principles early on in my journey. And I've seen that understanding yourself allows you to actually build something meaningful, something that you're inspired to do, something that you're grateful for, and just something that intrinsically aligns with you and your values. And it allows you to actually create an authentic presence in person as well as online. And this is what leads to magnetism and charisma. So as part of what I do in creating magnetic personal brands, I've actually shifted my focus on building a strong inner foundation first. So I've battled with perfectionism myself. Maybe it's because subconsciously it's just me trying to prove myself or not be seen as inferior and just gain authority and credibility for myself. So for whatever I do, I always, I know I'm very critical and I like to be a perfectionist. And I've seen that as a downside. And recently, I've started to actually appreciate the upsides of it. And this is because of one of the things I want to go through later on in the video. Recently, spending the time to look inside and to question things and just understand myself has helped me realize how being a perfectionist can actually serve me and how it has served me up until this day. Now, these are the sorts of things that I help my clients with in building their personal brands, is just building this strong personal foundation first, just so that we can get aligned with what's inside, so that we can start to then appreciate and love what we see on the outside. It's about looking inside. It's about understanding yourself. There's Jungian philosophy in there, psychology, should I say, and there are practices that help you really clarify what you're doing so that you're not afraid to show up authentically for your audience. So just in conclusion, that's one of the reasons why I like to focus on building an inner foundation before we get to the content side later on in this whole program down here, this content strategy. So now that we understand the importance of a personal foundation, let's talk about what being magnetic really means. The second seed that I want to plant in your mind is, what does being magnetic actually mean? Now, let's just get another thing out of the way. You can't please everyone. So that probably is another reason what's stopping you from being magnetic. Just understanding or having this fear that there are going to be people out there that are not going to resonate with your message. They're going to judge you. They're not going to like what you're saying, or they're not going to agree with what you're saying. But let's just accept that there are going to be people out there like that, and let's just move on. because you can't expect others to be aligned with your priorities. I mean, when you've got expectations, you're setting yourself up for failure. Your priorities, your values are completely different to everybody else's, and you shouldn't get upset when they're not appreciating your values and your priorities. Vice versa, you could be the same. You're not going to be appreciating and understanding and agreeing with other people's values. Now, this is because everyone has their own set of values and priorities, like a unique fingerprint. And this is why magnetism comes from, firstly, having clarity on what your values are and using those values to serve others. So if you actually use your values to create something that you can serve people with, you'll actually magnetize those people that are aligned with your values, and you can do that profitably as well in fair exchange. So being paid fairly for what you're doing. I want to give a huge shout out to Dr. Demartini because he talks a lot about values because they're so important. It's like a foundational principle in whatever you do. So just to help you understand this concept a little bit more clearly about values, what we're talking about, values. We hear that term all the time. Values can change over time. Some values may be there forever till the end of your life, but other values they might fluctuate. So he's got this thing on his website where you can go through this value determination process. There's a questionnaire of 13 questions, and it helps you get a little bit more clear on what your values are so that you can then understand where to put your energy. You can understand why this is important for you to do if you're building your personal brand. This is why there's a huge disconnect. So this is going to help you get clear on what you're saying and how you're saying that so that you're showing up more authentically with your intended audience. So the few questions that he asks, and I would urge you to do this yourself as well, get clear on your values, write them down, and just see what patterns start to emerge. Well, one of the questions he asks is, ask yourself, what are the top 3 things that you're inspired to talk about? If you were bored at a party, at a family gathering or somewhere, you want to go home, but then a topic came up and you would instantly feel revitalized, re-energized, and you just want to get involved. You want to speak about that topic. If you can list what 3 topics they would be in order of importance, perfect. You've got an idea of what sort of things you value. Is it cars? Is it football? Is it philosophy? Is it science? Is it engineering? Just write them down. The next thing he asks is, what top 3 things do you spend your money on the most? Taking out mortgage, tax, or rent, things like that. Is it beauty products? Is it creams? Is it clothes, shoes? Well, that means it's aesthetics probably. That's what you value the most. Or is it food? Is it business related products or expenses? Write them down as well, and then you'd see what your values are. And then another one he asks is, what top 3 things do you keep close to you in your workspace, at home, on your desk? What things are at arm's reach or on your person? Whether it's, maybe family trinkets, maybe it's fitness equipment, maybe it's books, posters. If it's books and posters, it's, your education, learning, research, that's something you value. If it's family photos or, like I said, family trinkets, it's family. If it's fitness equipment, it's health, it's physical stuff. Write those things down as well. So that's sometimes things might overlap, and then you start to really see a pattern emerging. And another thing he says is, when you wake up in the morning, what thing is it that you're intrinsically inspired to do straight away? Nobody has to tell you to do this, you just do it. And this is another way for you to understand what it is you value. Is it working on a particular area of your business? Like, do you prefer the design side, or do you prefer the marketing sales side, or do you prefer admin side? Is it checking your phone to see if a certain member of family or maybe family and friends have messaged you? These are the things that you need to write down and understand. These are the things that you truly value, and nobody has to force you to do. So if you ask yourselves these sorts of questions, you can start to see a pattern of what things are actually showing up in your life. What evidence can you see for a specific value, and in what order of priority are they showing up as well? And magnetism and charisma actually come from being clear on these values and figuring out how to create a product or service from these values to serve other people profitably with the principle of fair exchange is one of the most important things that you could do in your life. And when you actually take your product or service and speak from the heart, you match your values, what you're speaking about, with your audience's pain points and their aspirations and their values. So you're automatically going to inspire them. They're going to be sharing the same values as you. They're going to be resonating with your values, and you're going to be helping them understand something that's actually meaningful to them as well in the area of life you're speaking about. Then they're going to be watching you, and then they're going to label you as, oh, this guy's charismatic, this guy's magnetic. In conclusion, just on this second seed, this point, it's about serving other people who have a vested or a congruent interest with your vision, mission, and values. Now, the third seed that I want to plant in your mind about being magnetic and about how to resonate with your audience is the role of vulnerability. Not a lot of people understand this. There's a massive ego that they have, and that stops them. Ego's good. I'm not saying an ego is bad. Egos help, but in balance. Let's be real. Let's understand our weaknesses. Let's understand the role of vulnerability in creating magnetism. This is where authenticity turns into connection. So being magnetic isn't about just projecting your strengths and, oh, look, I'm cool, I'm doing this, I've got a Lamborghini and I've got this, I've got the other. People don't connect to perfection. The days of Lambo driving, polished looking profiles and personal brands are over. People want to connect with authenticity and realness. That's where vulnerability actually comes in. So if you want to be magnetic, you need to let people see the human behind the brand. You want to let them see the person behind what your message is one and the same. And it's actually summed up really nicely by a quote by Dr. Brené Brown. She's a leading voice on this topic. She's what I like to call a magnetic market leader around this topic of vulnerability. And she's said, one of the quotes that I like, she said, vulnerability is not winning or losing. It's having the courage to show up and be seen when we have no control over the outcome. So, I mean, just to think about that for a moment, just looking at one of these profound quotes that she's said, again, it's about this ego. Vulnerability is not about winning or losing. We shouldn't see it like that. It's about just having the courage to understand what your values are, show up, and just be seen for who you are, for what your values are, what you actually prioritize in your life, naturally prioritize in your life, and not worrying about what's going to happen after you've shared your message. Don't worry about the outcome. Like I said, you can't please everyone. I was actually looking at something yesterday about big brands like Apple, Amazon, DKNY. They've obviously got huge marketing teams behind them. And those marketing teams obviously understand the importance of vulnerability. And they take opportunities to showcase their vulnerability through campaigns or reactions to events that have happened. Or maybe when they make a mistake, they show up on social media, they interact with people, they comment, they show, look, we made a mistake, guys, and they try to make that better. This actually humanizes them, and that enables them to be trusted more by the audience. So at the end of the day, people buy from people. And if you're going to be coming across all polished and perfect, you're not going to resonate with most people, because of course, there will be people out there that are going to resonate or are going to be drawn to perfectly polished people. That's fine. But the point is, especially in this day and age, and especially in looking at our human nature, people don't resonate with polished and perfect looking things. It's not in our human nature to do so. Now, I want to give you another example about myself and my perfectionism. For example, I did struggle with perfectionism, and I saw that as a struggle. And honestly, even thinking about this video that I'm making right now, I'm going to be able to spend hours probably nitpicking every little detail, wanting to re-record, start again. And I'm not going to lie, I've done that. This is like the third take that I'm doing, because I've learned that waiting for perfection means waiting forever. So I'm out here just doing what I'm doing, and I'd rather connect with you now, imperfections and all. Plus, I totally understand that the first time you do something, you're not going to be that good at it. And looking back at this video, maybe in a year or two, I'm probably going to look back and laugh and just think, oh my God, what on earth were you wearing? What were you looking like? Why are you recording it on a Loom video? All these little things. Where are you recording it? I'm going to be pretty critical. But like I say, this is a human side of me, and I'm just embracing that. I'm just accepting the fact that, yes, okay, I know my imperfections. I can't be perfect. Let's just move on. Let's just do it. Now, I'm going to tell you the same thing. The first video that you make and the first thing that you do, the first time you do something, you're going to be terrible at it. We just need to get over it. By the 100th time that you do something, you're going to be so much better. And that's what you need to look forward to. That's what I'm looking forward to anyway. Now, for a practical step on vulnerability, I actually go through some exercises to help people tap into their vulnerability. There are 3 questions that I ask, and there's a lot that goes into this. A lot of psychology, a lot of looking inwards, a lot of brand building type of stuff that goes into this. But in the question, who are you? I go through things like defining your origin story. What have been your struggles in life? How have you overcome those struggles? What challenges have you had? And of course, the difference between being vulnerable and oversharing. You don't want to be completely airing everything out there. Some people have taken that approach. Some people like Hamza Ahmed on YouTube, for example, I remember following him, and he was talking about some really his own deep, dark thoughts and the things that he struggled with and how he's overcome those struggles and challenges. And he amassed a huge audience and a lot of trust from his audience as well. And right now he's in a really good place because he was able to showcase his vulnerability and not worry about the backlash that he's going to get. For whoever it mattered to, resonated with him. For who it didn't matter to, they were probably like, "Oh my god, what is he talking about?" But they were genuine. And I'm going to be honest with you, when I watched his videos, I was like, "Oh my god, what is he talking about? This is just cringe." But then I saw a lot of people resonating with his story and his issues. It just proved my point. My values were not the same as his with the subjects that he was talking about and the things that he was talking about. But there are people out there that did value the same things in the areas of life that he valued. So there was this connection, there was this resonance mixed with vulnerability. Boom, you've got a really good recipe there for a magnetic personal brand. Think about what Carl Jung called your shadow self, the parts of yourself that you hide or you feel insecure about, what loved ones have pointed out about you, what you've dismissed or disliked about yourself. These are also things that we need to uncover. So instead of rejecting those things, embrace it. Like I say, how can this be my strength? So, like I was saying, instead of you rejecting your dark sides, instead of you rejecting your weaknesses, embrace it. Ask, how can this be my strength? How can this serve me? When you think about this long enough and explore as many options as you can, spend as long as you can sitting down thinking about how is this thing serving me, you're going to surprise yourself. You just need to find that balance. So just to conclude this third seed, vulnerability isn't about sharing everything. It's not about putting everything out there. It's about showing up authentically and embracing all parts of yourself. When you do that, not only will you be building trust between you and your audience, you're also going to be creating that magnetic connection that actually draws people into you. So another important seed. Now, moving on to the fourth seed that I want to talk about is systems and delegation to stay inspired. Now, you'll only be inspired if you live in your highest value. We've already planted that seed in seed 2. But bringing systems into this, when you align your systems with your values, showing up doesn't even feel like work. This is bliss, and this is where everybody needs to aim to be, and I'm aiming for that as well. But like I said, systems and delegation are going to help you stay inspired. I tell people your personal brand should actually be your most profitable asset, not your biggest headache. And a lot of times, analysis paralysis and all these things out there, they confuse you and they scatter your brain, they scatter your attention. So that's why systems and delegation are really important to stay inspired. That's where your creative genius is going to come to life. That's where you're going to be the most valuable. That's what's going to move the needle the most in your business. But for a system to actually work effectively, all the parts need to be moving. And the problem is, like I said, you might start to feel drained when you're having to run certain parts of the system that aren't in alignment with your highest values. So this is where delegation comes into play. Now, there's a way that you actually go about this. When I started to actually work on building something around what my highest values are and working alongside my own personal brand, I struggled with consistency. I was, juggling a business, family, multiple roles. I had so many things to do. And on top of that, I'd overthink everything and just, miss deadlines and not do what I need to do. And I would just create last minute things. It's exhausting. Honestly, it has been really exhausting. And that's unsustainable. What I'm telling myself and what I needed as well, one of the things I needed is a framework, a system that could actually support me long term while aligning my work with my values. So that's how I built the magnetic growth system, which I'm constantly refining and improving, by the way. But there are parts of this that I don't enjoy doing. And there are parts of it that my creative genius is just flowing and I'm really enjoying it. Now, while I feel like I've got the right system in place to actually help me churn out all the things that will make the biggest impact, I'm still handling things that don't necessarily energize me, like I said. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling scattered, if you're feeling stuck in certain tasks that you feel like your energy is being drained by, this is your sign to sort of step back and reassess on your journey to building a personal brand. Ask yourself, what tasks light me up and align with my highest values, and what tasks actually feel like a chore, but they're necessary for my systems to run so that I can then plan to delegate them when the time is right. Look at it that way and work towards it. Like I say, don't see it as being in the way, but on the way. So think of it this way, just to leave you with this conclusion. Number one, I would say, is understanding your highest priority things that you're energized, enthused, and excited about. Creating a business around your highest values so that you can serve and inspire other people with it and be paid profitably with the principle of fair exchange, being paid fairly. Also, creating systems around your business to get yourself in front of the people who will resonate with your values. And the fourth thing I would say is working towards seeing things on the way, not in the way, to eventually delegate the lower priority things on your list to finally you can tap into and have a higher chance of being magnetic. Okay, now my last seed is a simple one. I want to keep it simple because I know I've already probably gone through a lot in this video and I don't want to overwhelm anyone, but this is the last short and sweet seed that I want to plant in your mind. It's about creating win-win situations and remaining balanced while you're doing it. So, let's not set up a fantasy for ourselves. Okay, let's not fall into that trap of setting up this fantasy. Again, expectations, high expectations, of feeling like everything will be positive, nothing will go wrong. Life has both sides, support and challenge. These opposites are like the poles of a magnet. They can't be separated, but you can change how you see them and you can prepare yourself for balance. So this is why balance is really important in everything that we do. And another thing is, if we are not planning for the worst case scenario, we are leaving ourselves open to failure. Some people are like, oh, no, I just want to talk, I just want to think positive, positive, positive. And then they are the ones that actually don't foresee the problems that can arise and they end up failing catastrophically sometimes. They're blindsided. You have to be prepared for these things. So balance. In the pursuit of being effortlessly magnetic, aiming for this effortless magnetism, I remind myself not to go too far to either extreme. So not too narcissistic on one side where it's all about, I want this thing that way, or I know what's best for the customer, or I know, this, me. And on the other side, you don't want to be too altruistic either, where you're giving everything away without considering your own needs. One of my company's values is give without expectations, but we need to create win-win situations. Now, there's a quote or a few out there that goes something like this: if you want to build your own dreams, start by helping others build theirs first. And this, like I said, ties back to giving without expectations. But I want to be really clear about this. This doesn't mean sacrificing yourself or, going against the principle of fair exchange. Fair exchange ensures that you're giving value, but you're also receiving what you need to thrive. It's not about saying, here's my house, here's my keys, here's my car, take everything, take my clothes too. That's not balance. Give without expectations, but don't give them to a point of self-harm. Think of it this way: in order to receive, you have to give, but it has to be sustainable. And if you can give a little bit more without harming yourself, do it. So if you can assist other people on their journey to get there while staying aligned with your own highest values and sharing from the heart, you will make the biggest impact. That's how you create win-win situations, by lifting other people while also living authentically and ensuring that there's fair exchange for everybody involved. And on that note, I just want to say those are the 5 seeds. Hopefully they grow in your mind into, little plants that start sprouting, they turn into trees. But I hope that these points have made an impact in your journey, helped you get aligned and cut out the noise, cut out the tips, tactics and hacks out there, and just come back to the first principles of what it means to actually be magnetic and authentic. If you want to put in the effort, it does take some effort and energy, but if it's important to you, you will do this. My main goal for these videos is to serve, inspire, and unbind as many people as I can. So I hope I did that in one way or the other. And also, by the way, I understand that some people who are watching this might want to work with me right now, but I'm only taking on a specific amount of people for what I can handle right now. You can check the link in the description if you're interested. Let's connect. Otherwise, I just hope you got a lot of value from this video. I hope it's pointed you in the right direction. I hope it's brought clarity to your mind and clarity from all the mess that's out there. And I'll be seeing you in another video next week. Take care in the meantime. Bye-bye.